I'm Jackie Wellham. I'm the Director of Children's Ministry at Crossroads Christian Church in St. Matthews. Today, I'd like to tell you a Bible story from the book of Acts, chapter 7.
This story is hard to hear. It has scary parts. It has sad parts. And sometimes when things get scary or sad, we just want to give up. But you know what? We need to keep going because God knows the rest of the story. So stick with me and we'll get through this story together. God loved us so much that he sent Jesus to show us how to live and how to have a relationship with God forever and ever. And then Jesus gave that job to his disciples. And they were really, really good at that job. And before you know it, a whole lot of people knew about God's love, and they became part of something that we call the church. But some of those people needed more help than others. Some of them didn't have enough food. Some were sick. Some needed other things. Meeting all those needs, plus telling everyone about Jesus, well, that was just too much for the disciples. The disciples needed help.
When people thought of someone who could help, someone who was full of the Holy Spirit, they thought of Stephen. So he and 6 other people, they got the job. God filled Stephen with a special grace and power to do his work. It's kind of like love was his superpower. Not everyone was a fan of Stephen, though. There were some people who chose to argue with him. But the Holy Spirit gave Stephen the wisdom he needed to answer them. Eventually, Stephen's enemies resorted to lying about him. They said that he'd spoken against Moses and even God, and none of that was true. Those lying liars even lied about Stephen in court. It was awful. But Stephen didn't look upset. In fact, they noticed that his face looked like an angel when he stood against his accusers. When all those lying liars finished lying about Stephen, the high priest asked, "Is this true?" Stephen knew that God was with him, and he wanted the people to understand who Jesus was. So, this is how he answered them. The God of glory appeared to our father Abraham. At that time, Abraham was still in Mesopotamia. He had not yet begun living in Haran. "Leave your country and your people," God said. "Go to the land I will show you." Stephen continued the story of God's people. He told them about Jacob and Joseph and slavery in Egypt and on and on. And then he got to the heart of the story. He accused the religious leaders of killing Jesus. This is what he said. "You people, you won't obey. You are stubborn. You won't listen. You are just like your people of long ago. You always oppose the Holy Spirit. Was there ever a prophet your people didn't try to hurt? They even killed those who told you about the coming of the blameless one. And now you've handed him over to his enemies. You have murdered him." This made the religious leaders very angry. They were so mad they could hardly stand it. But Stephen calmly looked up and saw a vision of heaven. He was full of the Holy Spirit. He looked up to heaven and saw God's glory. "Look," he said, "I see heaven open. The Son of Man is standing at God's right hand." The religious leaders got even more angry. They rushed at Stephen, dragged him out of the city, and they began to throw stones at him. And the whole time they showed him their hate, Stephen just kept showing them his love. He even prayed for his attackers. He prayed, "Lord, please don't hold this sin against them." And then it was over. After that, I wouldn't have blamed Jesus' followers if they had decided just to keep their mouths shut about Jesus. But Jesus had asked them to please make sure everybody all over the world knew about his love. So They were determined to get the job done. And remember that determination is deciding it's worth it to finish what you started.
And because they were so determined to share the good news about God's great love for everyone, you and I know about God's love today. You and I don't always know the end of the story either. And sometimes life gets really scary. Maybe parents are fighting, or gosh, maybe somebody's sick and might even die. Or maybe you're just having a bad day, or maybe you don't like what's for dinner. You can talk to God about all of that. You can also talk to an adult you trust about the feelings that you're having. You don't have to face all those by yourself. Just like Stephen, I want you to stand strong. I want you to do your best to share God's big, big love with everybody you see. And I'll be back next week with another Bible story. Goodbye.